Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And listen, folks, we have a rock solid, spicy AF kind of show for you today. Obviously, if you're keeping your ears to the socials, there's been some drama with IGN. And I say drama because they went out there and they put it out in Front Street that they were denied a code from WB Games for the Suicide Squad. Look, we're going to get into it because I have a lot to say on the subject matter. I think IGN got shown the door, as they should have on many times. I think that what we have seen over the course of the last couple of years, the gaming media has become the bully. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now. I may not like a lot of what's going on with Sony right now. I am going to say, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, Sony rules with an iron fist. Now, I don't always agree with some of the stuff that they do. That's for sure. But if you try to hurt their brand with disingenuous behavior, a la IGN equals Starfield, then the next time a big game comes out, your company, your conglomerate, your $1 million conglomerate is shown the velvet rope where you are not allowed to pass. And that's exactly what happened with WB Games. Now, whether that is because of the commentary or coverage, or the lack of coverage because of Hogwarts and the whole situation last year, which went very political, or that is just the way that they dumped on it. Suicide Squad in their beta preview, why give them anything? Are they owed anything? The answer is no. They're $1 million conglomerate. I'm sure that they have free Game Pass subscriptions because Microsoft gave it to them, and they can just, play games that way when they don't want to buy them, or they can actually go out and buy Suicide Squad like all of us already have. I'm in the bag, folks. I spent $100, and I'm not sorry that I did because that game looks like it's for me. Now, I didn't play the beta, and I could be 1,000% wrong. And if the game stinks, I'm going to come out and tell you, hey, man, that game sucks. But it seems like it's my type of game, so I'm in it to win it. Before we get into, that's the first half of the show. Now, the second half of the show, folks, is where we're going to start talking a little bit about Xbox here. Because after what happened with Starfield, who in the room here is confident? Raise your hand. That Hellblade 2 is going to get a fair shake at someone like an IGN. I have no confidence in that. And and you know what? That game could be a 10. And for somehow or another, they're going to get deducted points because it's not on PlayStation, that it's only 8 to 10 hours in length. Not enough people worked on it. It took too long. We've seen it too many times. Game Award after Game Award after Game Award. There's going to be something. I feel like almost all Xbox games for IGN specifically start at -2. Now, I want to see Microsoft do this. I want to see them deny a big conglomerate like this a code. No, you cannot get a review code. Sorry. And let them come like little bitches, pardon my French, and tweet it out. And again, we didn't get a code. Shut up. You don't deserve a code because you don't play
French?
fair. Yeah, French for bitch. Yes, exactly. Let me simmer down because I don't want to get overly hype. I want to be the paraprofessional that I am. I want to welcome in Gamsley, who's joining us again. Gamsley, brother, it's so great to have you here. How you feeling?
Oh man, I'm feeling great. I'm happy to be back. Thank you for inviting me back.
Well,
I'm ready
it's good
to
to have you
talk.
here, man. We were talking in the green room. I expect some big opinions. Now, they may not be. We may not agree on some things, which is awesome. I love that. I love that about the podcast. But I can't wait to hear what you have to say. You actually held it back because you want to be fresh with it, and I definitely appreciate that. But thank you so much for joining us again. Now, obviously, there's missing folks here. Dave is handling some important family stuff. He's going to try and get here, even if he gets here a little bit late. I thought Crispy might be here, but obviously if he's working, then he's not going to be here. And we don't know what happened to Louis. Hopefully he's okay and he might pop in here. But I think we have enough people on the panel to have a fantastic conversation. And we may throw another, story because there's been a lot of news for Xbox, but Fuzzy Belvedere. Big news over the weekend. IGN
Yep.
didn't get a code. And yeah, I'm sorry
Woo-hoo.
to say it's you get what you reap what you sow, so to speak, or lie in the bed, you made it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. How you
Yeah.
feeling? Good morning.
Oh, I'm feeling great. Glad to be here. Great that we have Gamesley on here again. And man, just IGN just keeps on stepping on rakes for some reason, for whatever it is. Although, given that this is a PlayStation, marketed game, it
Yeah.
seems kind of weird that they would poo-poo on it. But maybe they thought it played better on Series X, so they had to get their digs in while they could. But glad to be here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's just do this.
Okay, so all right, real quick, Hargi Chani, who's in the who's been a channel member for 17 months, bro. That's crazy good. He says what WB is doing is a bad thing here. They have restricted codes across the board. I don't agree with this at all. Disappointing that this keeps happening. Now, I do agree with somewhat of what he is saying. Now they restricted the codes. Now apparently the review codes are not going out until the 30th, which is when early access starts. The actual official release date is Friday. Early access starts on Tuesday, which of course is tomorrow. And listen, whether that's a good or a bad thing, we can definitely touch that. But I'm specifically want to focus in on the IGN not getting a review code. Okay. Now, this was brought to everyone's attention by Tom Marks of IGN. And this is what he had to say, folks. We won't have our review of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League at launch as review codes have not been sent ahead of time. In fact, WB Games has declined to send IGN codes at all. We'll get our impressions up as soon as we're able after release. Thanks for your patience. Now, I don't know who Tom Marks is. He works for IGN. Okay, I guess. I don't care because I don't read IGN. But what I do want to talk about is Destin Legary. Now, Destin had several points to say on Twitter or on X regarding IGN not getting the codes. Now, listen, I want this to be clear. I like Destin. I'm still subscribed to his YouTube channel. I watch it sparingly because I'm going to be honest with you. He lost me a little bit when he told us that we were crazy, that there was an Xbox tax. I'm going to be honest with you. I was insulted. Now, I don't dislike Destin. I think he's a fine journalist, and I'm still subscribed. But I fell off the train a little bit with him because I did not like that he was talking down to me. That's how I felt when he was telling me that there's no such thing and that we're all lunatics for suggesting that there's an Xbox tax, even though a week and some change later, he was embarrassed live on the air when he was told Xbox has no games. Like right in front of him, Damon told him that, and he's like, "Nah, that's not really true. There's your Xbox tax by your own peers." So ultimately, him going against the fact that there's a tax, it left a little bit of a distaste for me, just me personally. Now, I don't dislike him, and I still watch his stuff, but I'm not keen to click on it as much as I was anymore because I feel like, well, maybe my opinion doesn't matter, and when my opinion doesn't matter, well, then I'm not going to watch his stuff. Well, this is what Destin had to say, or at least one of the many things he had to say, and he says, well, he's responding to Alex Thomas. who said you're not entitled to being sent a code, and he and obviously right at Destin, and Destin responded. He says he's right. No one is, but to send out no codes at all, or to be selective with who gets them, should certainly send a message to customers. Now, that I disagree on, because the game is already been out in the ether and many beta codes have been sent out. Everyone has had one. I got some. I got a few. I know that people that I respect and I trust in Pong Soul and I Steel Rain, well, they're enjoying the game, and based on how they were talking about it and some of the gameplay that was shown, even though it wasn't his, over this weekend on Living Split Screen, I was like, "Yep, this is definitely a boom game." Like I said, I was already in for the $100. If I, listen, if I lose it, then shame on me for not being a more invested gamer. But I think I'm going to dig the game, and if it sucks, I'm going to come out here and tell you it sucks because I bought the game. I don't know anything to WB Games or anybody for that matter. But if the game is good, well, I'm going to tell you it's good. I'm having fun with it. I'm enjoying it. Gamsley, before I get to you, brother, I do want to bring in our good buddy here, Fuzzy. Fuzzy, look, this is one of those situations, folks, that I'm going to get some people to disagree with me here, and that's fine. We don't all got to agree, but I personally feel that places like IGN act as if they're infallible. They act like bullies. And a perfect example of not getting a code is putting it out there on the socials, hoping that people in the community are going to come up and defend you. I don't think anybody's defending IGN. And again, this isn't an Xbox thing, folks. We're going to get to the Xbox thing, but it has nothing to do with IGN. IGN said what they said about Starfield, and that's it. That's it. They gave it a 7. It's done. It is what it is. Now, a 7, good, bad, that's up to you as a consumer. I just feel that places like IGN, Fuzzy, have gotten a little bit too big for their own bridges, at least in my opinion. And I think that people, their leadership there feels that because they're a $1 million conglomerate, they're owned by a big company. They have several small sites under them, that they are like the stopgap, the end all for games media. And I don't agree with that. I think that there are other sites that are way better, maybe smaller. VGC, run by Andy Robinson. I talk about them all the time. One of my favorite places to get news. I think that, yes, Andy has said some things that he got wrong, but I have said some things that I've gotten wrong. And you know what you do? You get out there on the right front street, and you let people know you got it wrong. That's just what you do. That happens. I would like to see more people go to them, because I think that they're an upcoming potential IGN-sized site. I like what they do over there. I want to get your hot take on this. Again, this is one of those open-ended conversations where I don't care where you go, just whether we agree, we don't. Give your piece, man. I mean, listen, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the Suicide Squad?
Well, just focusing on Suicide Squad, given that they had the early access, it seemed like their initial impressions were from a place where they wanted the game to be something different than what it is. And they judged it accordingly, which we've all kind of done this before. We see a trailer, or we see, back in the day, we saw the box art and we were like, oh, we think it's this type of game. And then you start to play and it's something different. It can, turn what would have been a positive situation into a negative situation. But given IGN, they should have kind of known, seeing the development aspects of this game and the delays with this game from the initial trailers on to where we are at now, and how this game has kind of shifted from a games as a service, but it still has like seasons, so it's not a full-on games as a service, at least at the launch. So with all of that being said, they gave a negative review or a negative, initial impression. And it's well within WB's right to say, hey, okay, you guys didn't like it. Let's see what, other players that had access to the beta felt. And they lifted the NDA, except for, I think, gameplay or something like that. But, and there were some that were like, yeah, I don't like it for like the same reasons, where they thought it was going to be something different, more of like a Arkham Knight kind of game. And it's, a little bit of that, but more of a looter shooter with a lot of other, traversal and things like that. So there was a lot more, I guess, feedback out there that you could, sort through and stuff. And with WB, I could totally see, considering how much they probably have invested in this game, how long they've spent making the game, and even with the delays to polish and change a few things here and there, it appears that IGN is going to do what IGN has done, and certain other larger sites would do, is when a game is different than what is expected or anticipated, they do the pile on, even if the game is good. Like a quick example, people were mad at Far Cry for being a Far Cry game.
Yep.
I understand you would like to see some different things into the formula, but if all of Ubisoft's games kind of, filter or fan out from that formula, what are you expecting in a Far Cry 6? It's going to be more Far Cry, but I would say judge it based on it being a Far Cry game, as opposed to, well, I wanted it to be something different than a Far Cry game, so I'm going to give it a 3 or whatever because it's not what I wanted. And with all that being said, I think it's in the best interest of studios, developers, publishers to, hold back on some of the review codes. Now, I guess the big drawback is the consumer is so used to seeing these early impressions and early reviews before launch to decide whether they, especially if they're on the fence, whether to buy. But I think in the grand scheme of things, we've seen where some games didn't have a chance to get, spoiled by the media or downplayed by the media, and they did well. And it's just a matter of, I think WB wants to give that same type of, approach this time around. Now, whether it's the right decision, for me personally, I think it is. Like, and to the second part of the show, I'll probably get more into the Xbox aspect of things, but in the grand scheme of things, if it was up to me, all review sites, much like ACG, should buy the game. If there's early access to be had, that's the earliest that they get. Other than like a beta, let the review sites have, access to the beta or the alpha if you want to go that far back. But in all honesty, I mean, I know we're in that we have to have the info here and now, but the difference between having it a week before versus the day of, since most people are buying digital, it's not like, okay, you can't see the day of, what the sites say and what your friends are saying or what other people you may know are saying, or whatever influencers or other streamers that you follow, that value their feedback, see what they say on the day of release. I don't see why we have to have these big media sites have this, week in advance. Like if it was physical copies, I can see, because if you order it online and it has to be shipped out in the mail, blah, 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 I could see a reason why you would want to have that earlier aspect. So that way you might receive it in time for launch. But since we're in the here and now with digital, an hour after the game is released, you see a review, you might see a impressions, or you might watch a streamer to get, a gist of, is this game going to be worth the dollars? That should be good enough at this point, because we've seen so many of these media sites just pile on games, whether it's, in a negative fashion, or they all of a sudden butt all heads together and agree that a game is great when it's broken. Like, was it Jedi Survivor? Like everybody gave it a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. And that game was broken as what.
But not even just broken on day one. It was broken for 6-7 months afterwards.
Yeah. And in all honesty, while I liked the game, I didn't like the bugs in the game, but it was lesser of a story to me than the first one as far as Fallen Order in comparison. Like, even though there was more to do in Survivor, I felt, Fallen Order had more of a story to it that wasn't as predictable in comparison. But that's just my personal take on it. But for me, screw IGN. Like, if IGN is going to try to lean on the consumer for sympathy, to try to twist the arms, or throw mud in the face back at WB after they had already thrown mud in the face because the game wasn't what they wanted the game to be, so be it. And me personally, I would like to see more publishers do this, just for the fact that we don't
Yeah.
need these early access media sites giving us feedback when you can download the game today or the day of, in minutes type of thing. I mean, sure, if you have slower internet, it might take you an hour or whatever, but we're talking about, like, in comparison to before, where you were buying physical games, you had to go to the store, made sure they had it in stock, or you had to do the midnight launch and stand in line for it, or you had to hope that UPS got it to you the day of, or maybe it was the next business day it got to you, and things like that. So I don't think they need this early access. So if they want to cry in their Cheerio, so be it. But kudos to WB, seeing how they wanted to avoid a pylon situation. Now, this could backfire on them, in the sense that if this game winds up being broken like a Star Wars Fallen Order, it's going to come back to seriously bite them moving forward.
Yeah.
But considering how well, even though it was 30 frames, how well optimized, Gotham Knights was, um, it was fine at launch. The same thing with Hogwarts Legacy was fine at launch. Minimal bugs, but it wasn't like anywhere near like some of the other bigger titles that came out where they had numerous bugs and had to have numerous patches. So if this one doesn't have to have, a big day one patch that, maybe some people weren't aware of type of thing, I think they'll be fine. But if not, we could see a cyberpunk situation. But from the people that I've heard from that have played it, I would say, at least on PC side of things, that shouldn't be the case. Console, Series X, PS5, I don't know fully, but haven't heard anybody complain, other than like maybe a boss battle where, okay, they didn't do damage to the boss until they retried that boss battle, or they went to climb up the side of a building and it threw them off the building, so they had to climb up the building again, or something along those lines. So I think this is a good move on WB's part, but we'll see, sure enough, soon. So
No, I mean, listen, here's the thing. First of all, before we bring Gamsley in, and I'm very interested in his opinion, I want to welcome in Mark Medina. He works at IGN. He's in the chat right now. Mark, first of all, chat, please be gentlemen like as we are. He didn't have to put his name out there. He's here. He said something originally that I'm trying to find. He says, Double Barrel Gaming, I disagree. I've been with the company for almost 10 years. Never have we made a review specifically to farm clicks. That is a silly assumption. Brother, listen, we don't have to agree on that. I understand how the business works. I'm not a journalist. No. I'm a retired New York City police officer. So I got into the game super late. Well, I've been doing YouTube for 6 years. I did another career for 20 plus years. So here I am, making my way. I don't use clickbait here. I don't use egregious titles to get you in. We don't use hate mongering. Now, you might be a fine journalist because I've never heard of you, and that doesn't mean that you don't exist. You've been with the company for 10 years, and I'm sure you've made an impact on your readers, and that's awesome. But I am not going to sit here and take and honestly believe what you have to say if you're telling me that you've been there for a decade and that the site itself does not use hate mongering or very specifically written titles to rage a community to click on their stuff. That happens all the time. And it's not just IGN. Let's understand this. This isn't a witch hunt for you guys. We're talking about the gaming media being put in their place, as you should. You are not owed anything. I have offers for codes all the time. And you know what I do? I turn them down. And the stuff I buy myself because I love the way ACG does it. That dude has 1 million subs, and everybody wants to give them the shirt off their back, and he doesn't take it. He buys his games. Now, I'm a retired dude. I'm not rich, but I have spendable income, and I buy my games. I buy them on PlayStation. I buy them on Switch, and there's a lot of the Xbox stuff, even though it drops in the Game Pass, I buy. But we don't have to agree, Mark. That's perfectly fine. I appreciate you stopping by. Please, by all means, hang out, listen to what we have to say. It's fine, but you're not going to get me to agree with you. That's not going to happen. Sorry. Gamsley, let's get your hot take on the initial conversation that we had. Obviously, we started in the green room. Here we are. Now we're live. You had some different thoughts. I personally think that the gaming media has become bullies. And I think a lot of these sites, IGN specifically, feel that they're infallible. And I have a real problem with that. Not because of how they reviewed Starfield or how they, consistently make mistakes of not involving the Xbox brand. And we just forgot that was in Game Pass, and they only make mention of it coming to PC and on PlayStation. That has happened almost on a consistent basis last year. But I want to kind of just focus on this. IGN does not get a code. I want to see more publishers do this. Now, I know Hargeet, who's an amazing content creator, big part of it. He disagrees with everyone being kind of closed out. He may be onto something for sure, because obviously they're not giving it to a lot of people, and apparently it's not going live for people who are getting codes on the 30th for the same people like me who bought the big boy, the $100 edition, who get early access. Is that wrong? Is that kind of keeping the curtain closed because they don't have confidence? That's a debate. But I'm interested to get your hot take on IGN specifically not getting a code based on the banter that happened for the beta.
Man, this is a really tough subject. First off, I think this whole review process is crazy, and it just makes everybody crazy. And I think IGN has really just tried to adapt with times. We could say clickbait, or we could say whatever, but algorithms that run our lives today, you need to be first on the money, and you need to be you have to have experience, and people like when people have experience playing their games, and you can't just release the code one day before and then expect that these people could make up their minds and give you criticisms on everything so specifically in one day as we like them to. Like, that's just not how things work. These guys need the code before the review, right? Or before we get it, to kind of help people, which was the general thing back in the day, was to help people figure out what they like, what they don't like. Should they buy it? Should they not buy it? Should they, that defeats the purpose if they get access the same day as we do. Also, again, let me speak. I'm not being negative about it, or I'm not trying to pull anybody's collar.
Have your opinion, brother.
Yeah, but I think it's just about taste. Like, today's algorithms, we tend to just follow people, like follow people's words and follow algorithms and follow all this stuff without actually having taste, right? Like, what is our taste really? And that's what a review is, a specific person's taste. And these people are gamers just like us. They have, the only difference is that they know how to write. They know how to write. They go to school for this. They understand how to put together a sentence and critical think and all that stuff, right? And they're just people with different tastes. So, I mean, I don't know how else to go about it. I think the review process sucks. I think we should just summarize everything. Don't look at a score, and read just like we read previews, and we make up our minds as consumers when the day comes, and we have to buy the game or not. That's what we do with YouTube. Fuzzy said it. YouTubers are there for you. Personalities that are there. Different types of tastes are there for you. We can make up our minds as consumers. But for IGN to be as big and stay as big as they are and whatever, which they built their site, by the way, on good opinions. That's how they built their site. Their site came from the ground up on gamers like us that know how to write. They play games. They have good opinions, just like the YouTubers, right? ACG, good opinions, knows how to write, knows how to talk. They're just like us. They make mistakes. They get too big, and this is what happens. But to stay on top, they need that review code. They need the first click. They need to have that code. And I don't agree that they're being aggressive. Like, I don't agree that they're being aggressive on what they said. They're just, telling us that they don't have the code, so they can't do that for us. They can't go in depth when we want them before we purchase it. They can't do that. So it's kind of a grimy push by WB, but where I do agree is that WB could do whatever they want, but we also have to understand that WB is also $1 million company, all right, with the biggest IP in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? They have the biggest IP in the world, and they're doing stupid algorithmic decisions with statistics to see, oh, look, these people, how do we make them spend more? How do we do this? Like, they're grummy, right? So
Well,
their
listen,
idea, hold on,
none of
wait,
these
wait,
companies are our
They're-
friends. Yeah.
Oh yeah, none, zero. So this company thought making a live service DC game 10 years ago was the move, and turns out it's not the move. But on like what, I don't know, people are judging the games without IGN speaking up, or without these bad previews on what people think a good superhero game might do. We won't get the superhero game that we want, right? The biggest sites also have to be the people that push the narrative to the big guys too. They have to be like, well, everybody listens to us. We have a lot of followers. We're going to make the biggest impact. We got to say what we got to say. If we don't like this superhero model service thing, we have to say it. And that's how you get these companies to kind of push their ass and not make these games, right? That's like, we don't want this. This is not what we want. And the big companies, sorry to say, they're not watching us, right? They're watching those guys. And I kind of like that they don't like this game. And you have to say specific things on politics as well. Hogwarts Legacy has politics attached to it, and they have to make a stance, and they make a stance because they think it's right or whatever, right? They have their opinions, and they think they could change something, and they put it out however they want to put it out. Now, does that make any sense? Like, the biggest guys are the ones that, they start like us, they grow big, they have a bigger voice, they have more people with decisions that might not, with speech patterns and ideas that we might not like, more and more of those, and then they change. But they're also the people that get stuff done, and who companies listen to and take judgment from, and get exclusives. And that's it. VGC probably going to grow and have different opinions later too. Well, we never know, but it has to. I don't think that everybody should be pushing towards not giving codes out. I think that's a little bit weird. And that's all. I'm with Hargeet on it a little bit.
No, good. I mean, listen,
And,
I
that's it.
appreciate the honesty, and you know what? Me and Hargeet usually agree with a lot of things. This is where I kind of like I'm kind of a little bit in the middle. And I would believe that he is too. Now, listen, understand, this channel is not suggesting that we as consumers be left in the dark, that we don't get a preview from a VGC or an IGN, and that we should go out and buy a particular game on a whim. No one is suggesting that. But this isn't 1985, where you waited by your local Optimo for them to drop off the news, the newest issue of whatever magazine was back in the days, where we had no access to internet, where we had no access to YouTube, where we could watch a video and we can watch gameplay and say, yeah, that kind of looks dope. I personally have not probably in 30 years, since I was like a kid, when you'd open up a Nintendo Power and be like, oh, they gave the game a whatever, or an old school IGN where they had or GamePro, for instance, where they had the little graphics of the guy screaming or the guy crying, right? You remember that? That's how maybe when I was a
Mhm.
kid, I would look at a mag and say, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely not buying this game. Everyone thinks it sucks."
Yeah.
And back then I only, you got a game for Christmas or a couple of games for Christmas, your birthday, maybe when you got a good report card, and after that, that was it. You didn't get any games. Now we're spoiled, so we have access to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if I
good.
could, if because I wasn't done. See, look, IGN gets to a point where they're too big and they have different people, right? We get it. It's about consistency, right? What makes the smaller sites in the YouTube people and whatever less people, less minds, less shareholders, less bullshit in a way, right? You're not
Mhm.
a PR bullshit space, right? Like IGN is very heavy. Like they could be a PR site. They're basically a PR site, right? So they grew to a point where that is a thing, right? They're PR, they do their thing, whatever. They're not the mom and pop shop reviewer, right? So like I'm not saying that IGN isn't on a high ground and they're always right and whatever. No, but what I am saying is that it's a tricky subject.
Oh,
All
it's a
right.
slippery slope for
It's
sure.
it's a really tricky subject, and when you start, we're becoming we have so much avenues. Again, taste is a huge thing.
Mhm.
Have your own taste. You don't have to support things. If you want to support the things you like. That's how we push back. I One second. I have one thing to say here.
Sure. Good.
1 second. Um, word of mouth. Word of mouth is a big thing. Like everybody's talking in chat. Like you know, we make a game big. Word of mouth is huge and personal taste is huge. Don't look at numbers, don't look at these sites and root for a team. Look at a game, play a game, talk to your friends about it, go on YouTube, talk to other friends about it. Create a
Mhm.
circle you like. That's part of taste. If you don't agree with IGN, don't click on it, don't support them. But at the end of the day, they are big. They're trying to give you stuff first. They're trying to push narratives, whether it's good or bad. They're the biggest thing out there. People are listening. But if you're super angry, guys, it's a little bit ridiculous. Just remember that WB is gigantic too.
Yep.
Word of mouth is important. And consistency is the most important. And what they lack, I think, is the consistency. And that's why we're rebelling. I get you guys. I get it. It's consistency. I understand. But we have to understand that it's a little bit ridiculous and we should step back too and just start liking what we like and pushing a narrative that we want to push with our friends and our community, which is what this show does,
Yep.
right? We like to give our opinions and push things we like, and that's what we do every day. IGN just does that on a very bigger, like a much bigger scale with
A
a
much larger
bunch of
scale than Double Barrel
yeah,
Gaming. Trust me.
a much bigger scale and with a lot more opinions. And I'm sure if we brought other people on this panel, we're gonna differ as well. So that's all I'm saying, guys. I love the Xbox community. I'm not going against you. That's just
No.
reality.
But I listen. Understand this, Gamsley. We appreciate the honesty. Now, granted, I want this to be clear. Nobody on this panel is quote unquote angry. I'm buying.
Yeah,
They
none.
got my money. The Xbox has
Yeah.
already taken my money. It's fine. If I take a dump on this one, well, then I failed myself as an informed gamer. I don't think I'm going to because, like I said, I listen to people that I respect and I trust, and there's quite a few of them out in the ether. Obviously, tip of the spear for me is some of the inner circle, Pong Soul, Mav, I Still Reign, the Iron Lords. I mean,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
there's a lot of people in the inner circle that I'm like, yep, I like what they're saying. Now,
Mhm.
we're not always going to agree, and maybe I like the game more than they do, and maybe I like the game less than they do. but I made an informed choice based on my peers. As I say to the community, I don't need IGN to tell me the game is a 10 or it's a 2. I do not need that from IGN. I have lost faith in them quite a while ago, which is one of the reasons why I started my own YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, speak to many of the people in this business, because that's really what it turns into when you start growing. Turns into a small mom and pop grop shop kind of business. The same way Kind of Funny did, which again, I talk about Greg Miller all the time. I've been supporting them since they left IGN. I don't support Colin anymore because of the rhetoric over there. But even though me and Greg, he doesn't know who the hell I am. I know who Greg is, obviously. I'll never get on the show. That's fine. But I still will support them because I like Kind of Funny. I like Blessing, even though I don't. And again, understand, folks, I don't always agree with them. A lot of the times,
Yeah, well, you have a taste, Boom. You have a taste,
But-
right? That's a personal taste, is it not?
Yeah,
Like, you have a
it
really
certainly- yes, it is. Yes,
yeah,
it is.
and you absorb their content and you taste it and you say, well, I like this, right? You have the option to do that, right?
Yes, I do.
And that's what we're talking about here. So
Yes. Well, I mean, listen, look, again, we're not going to beat the horse. We talked about it. I gave you my opinion on Destin. I think Destin's probably one of the best writers there. Again, he kind of fell. I kind of fell off of his stuff a little bit after the whole, there's no, don't pay attention, folks. There's no Xbox tax. There's a bias, folks. There's a tax. You can call whatever you want. It happened to him live on the air with Damon and the rest of that crew, right in front of his face, and his expression of horror, which people have memed, says it all. But I like Destin, and I will still support him. No doubt about that. What I will not support is IGN. And I'm very clear about that. Not that they need my money anyway, because, well, they're IGN. And that's fine.
Man.
That's
no,
fine.
but you know what? More and more people like you need to do that, because then we speak with
your wallet, as they say.
Yeah, and our
speak with your
clicks,
wallets.
right?
Speak-
If you don't like them, guys, just don't do it. Like, just don't click on them, and they get smaller, and maybe
Now-
they get better. So
you know what? I don't know. I mean, we're gonna get into a particular topic surrounding specifically IGN that I want to talk about. I think it's very pointed. I think it's a fair opinion. It's a fair question to be asked. Of course, I'm gonna go right back to Fuzzy, but Fuzzy, before we get to that, there are a couple of things. One, folks, as you know, Double Barrel Gaming, mom and pop as they come, right? Small, 14,000 subscribers strong. We're growing. We're hoping to hit 17 by the end of 2024. We're chugging along to 15. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please, by all means, consider subscribing. I do this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. All great panels, all great content. You know what? We don't say you hate. We don't hate monger or clickbait you to get you in here to say you on falsities. We give you a lot of laughs, a lot of fun shows, and a lot of information. And again, I read verbatim. I pull a lot of articles. I read 30 articles, 40 articles a week easily. I'm on top of this. I do this 7 days a week, technically. Even though I don't podcast on Saturday and Sunday, I'm always working on the show. And I love it. I absolutely love it. We have teamed up with the Volare Gaming Pillow, as you know. And folks, listen, as you know, I did 21 years as a New York City police officer, had a really nasty spinal cord injury, and I'm walking and but I'm put together like Wolverine. And this pillow, it works, man. Like I said, the company is a small company out of Dubai. They're a mom and pop grop shop kind of a place as well. And they wanted me to check out the pillow. And of course, before we agreed, Mrs. Boom and I wanted to try it out for ourselves, and we did. And it actually freaking works. It is phenomenal. So of course, I had a commercial. I paid to have this done because I'm not a cue card kind of a guy. I'd rather do the visuals for you. And Sean Labrie, one of the best artists in the business, made this commercial. So it's about 35 seconds long. Please check it out. Now, folks, as you saw, there is a code DBG15 you can add at checkout, and you will save 15% off of your total order. So again, like I said, if you suffer from bad posture, if you suffer from especially a bad back, this gaming pillow works, and the one that I'm personally using was gifted to me by King David himself of the Iron Lords, and their Iron Lord pillow is dope. Now, right now, I'm talking with the owner to see if we can get the Double Barrel Gaming logo on the pillow. I think that's something because their artists had stitched it out, and it looks really good. When I can get that to happen, of course, I will make the announcement of an official Double Barrel Gaming pillow, which would be dope. And that's kind of like we really made it at that point. But again, go check out the Valari Gaming pillow. You can go into the show notes. The link is right there. You click it, you're there. Use the code DBG15 at checkout to save 15% off of your total order. Now, before we get into Fuzzy Belvedere, I got to catch up on Super Chat. It's been quite a few of them. Hargeet, listen, I know you're there, brother. If you want to jump in and kind of throw your bars down, let me know in the chat. If anyone sees it, let me know, and I'll just send you an email with the link. Because who doesn't want to hear from Hargeet? I love that man. So real quick, Adidas 20 drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat. Sorry about that, Adidas Zero. He says, "What's up, Fuzz, Gam, and Boom? What's up, brother? Thank you so much for the generosity, Adidas 20. We appreciate you being here, and of course, the generosity." Eric the Red, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Destin wanted to pull off the white glove and slap WB Games across the face for displaying such disrespect. How dare you?"
You guys are messy, man.
I love it. I love it. Simon Brandy, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding £2 super chat and says, "Metro got a late code and for Starfield and, well, shit all over it." But then Metro, I mean,
yeah, those guys are weird.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are some sites like Kotaku that I like to consider to be like the Inquirer. Like, you're paying for your groceries at Stop and Shop, and you look at the Inquirer, and it's like Elvis bangs Alien. There you go, and you expect that, right? That's like, okay, well, that's Kotaku. Metro. Now, in any city, I know, especially in New York City, you have these plastic things on the corner where the garbage is. That's a free magazine, right? And usually people in New York City, especially in Manhattan, instead of using the garbage, they kind of put garbage in that thing. They open up the door and they throw their bag of whatever in there. They eat up the half-eaten bagel in there, right? That is what Metro is. Their equivalent of that plastic container of the magazine that no one reads, where the garbage is kind of stored. That's Metro. So don't worry about Metro. And it's unfortunate though, their score does count towards Metacritic, and Metacritic is another thing that needs to be fixed. But that's another whole story. Which, by the way, I was having an amazing conversation with Risket from the Biscuit. Even though, again, I disagreed 1,000% with him. It was me, it was Dreadpool, and him in a separate DM, kind of just going back and forth, and it was great. I love when we don't disagree, when we don't agree. So El Monte drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "You're a gentleman and a scholar, bro." That's very kind of you, brother. I super appreciate it. Look, you don't got to be an a-hole. You just don't. I would rather be a gentleman and then lose than be an a-hole and win. That's just, I don't think you have to curse. I don't think you have to point fingers. You don't got to be abusive. That doesn't work. I know how that is because I was a cop for 21 years, and I understand that when people don't get their way, sometimes they treat you in a way that's not really kind. But you got to be above it, which is what I always was. I was always a gentleman police officer, and I like to consider myself as a gentleman gamer as well as podcaster. So that's very kind of you to say, El Monte. Highlander 001. My God, he does it again. Thanks to him and many people here, whether you know or you know, I put it on the socials. We're over 300 channel members. That is crazy for the size of this channel, right? We're only 14,000 subscribers, and we have over 300 channel members. and that's because of many folks in the many folks like Highlander 001, who's incredibly generous. So thank you so much for gifting 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships, and if you got one, please thank him in the chat. Simon Brandy drops a very generous additional £5 super chat and says, "We pick review sites we trust. What's wrong with a publisher doing the same? No review site has
Nothing.
divine right to a code. You reap what you sow. Indeed, we have a new channel member, Rocket. He said he actually told me what the name was in the DM. Rocket. I don't want to butcher it, brother. I know. I thank you so much for being a channel member. That is super cool of you. But Rocket, that's very kind. He actually DM'd me with the actual pronunciation of what it is. And I'm an old man. I'm 53. I forgot, brother. I'm sorry. Dean.
Super young, Boom. Super young.
Yeah, sure. After my 45 minutes of my boxing class today, my body's saying no, but it's fine. It's fine. Dean Rivera drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, IGN titled the preview, "We played Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and we did not like it. That title is for clicks, and that's why they got no code." I mean, that's very true. I mean, they're being, if that's how they feel, look, I'm not going to tell them how to feel. But I don't know. I haven't played the game. I'm playing tomorrow. I think it's available at midnight tonight. If it is, I'm gonna try and stay up. The old man can't do it as much as he used to, but
also, if you kind of think about it, that kind of defeats the purpose of the click, because you should be smart enough to not click on that and just.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna dump on it, they're telling you in advance, "Hey, we suck. We didn't like
just
it,
don't
whatever."
click. You know,
It's
you got your answer. Yeah.
No, it's fine. That's a fair point. Listen, Fuzzy, I want to go to you on this because I'm gonna take this in a separate direction. Here's the path. There's an off-road. I'm doing a Forza Motorsport, and I'm driving on the grass and through the farm and everything, knocking everything in front of me. Look, I think that when you look at the behavior, the disingenuous behavior from IGN in the last 12 months, folks, I'm not making this up. They gave Starfield, Dan Stapleton, who's the head of reviews, originally gave Starfield an 8, went back and read his review and said it was a 7. That's fine. If that's what Dan thinks, I don't agree with it because that's not my score. It was my game of the year, but that's fine. That's fine. Whether it was for clicks, whether it was for whatever, we're not here to argue that. What we're here to talk about is something like the next big one from Xbox is Hellblade 2. It is a game that has been in development, and a lot of us think that it's been in development since 2018. A lot of us have heard behind the scenes that when Phil decided to set up the acquisition for the studio, they saw what they were working on. They're like, "Yeah, let's get them in here." That happens for several of the studios they're working with. Compulsion Games is another one that they saw what they were working on. Yeah, let's hire them. In Exile with their time travel game, that's another one. So the next big one from Xbox Game Studios, from Ninja Theory, is obviously Hellblade 2. That is releasing in May. I'm very excited for the game. We've seen a lot of it going all the way back to the unveiling of the Series X and the fact that Hellblade 2 was a thing. And we've seen it a lot. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, we got a chance to see it at the Direct once again, and it just looks phenomenal. What I saw, you got to remember, folks, and I say this with respect. I appreciate what they're doing in Ninja Theory maybe more than the next person, because my dad gave me an Atari 2600 when I was 8 in 1978. And I say this, and I know maybe I sound like a broken record. I hold that as such a gift that I got a chance to experience gaming from sticks and dots to what we saw from the Hellblade trailer. So it's a privilege. It's an honor. I've been a part of this since I was not part of making content to where I am now, and I take nothing for granted. Here is my point. Sorry for being long-winded. Mrs. Boom tells me that all the time. She says, "You're so long-winded." Sorry, I like to talk. Fuzzy,
You're
look.
good at it.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say, Gamsley. Thank you. I like to think so. I worked in community affairs, so I kind of talked with the people and I worked with the kids, so it was awesome career. When you look, Fuzzy, and I want you to kind of get into detail, how many times last year did Mav and Pong and iSteel and us and several other podcasts that you're on talk about how IGN almost instinctively left out the fact that Xbox was a part, like like a part of a release. As a matter of fact, we've seen it, I don't know, half a dozen times last year, where even though it was on Xbox Game Pass, it was like, oh, it's releasing here and here. And I'm sorry to say, I know that there's been some pushback. Oh no, it's just a mistake. Because I saw what happened with Lore Master Jasper, who I was talking to in the DM. He kind of got stomped on by some of these people at IGN, calling him, a tinfoil hat wearing knucklehead. When if it's there and we're seeing it, I don't know how we can argue it. My question to you is this: seeing how WB said no code for you for Suicide Squad. Now, the game could suck for all we know, and we'll know tomorrow.
Yeah.
It sucks. I'm going to tell you, folks, it sucks.
Mm.
Something I like, I'm going to tell you that I like it. Should Xbox pull a PlayStation? See, because I am in the belief, and chat, please push back on me if you feel that I'm being disingenuous here. They would never, and I say they, IGN would never pull this shit with PlayStation because of fear of losing marketing and getting that code. They're under the thumb of Sony. I don't care what anyone tells you. We know that their marketing budget is how much they make is a good portion, probably upwards of around 38, 39, maybe even 40% of their ad rev is PlayStation. That's a fact. Do you think that Microsoft, who I think needs to be a little bit more coy, a little bit more pushbackish, if you will, say, you know what? After how, because my thing is this: they're in third place, right? They're the engine that the little engine that's chugging, and at every turn, we see IGN do something what I believe to be in disingenuous, whether that's leave them off of release or with their reviews. I would personally like to see IGN not get an IGN first for Hellblade. I'd like to see that go to someone like a VGC. I would like to see them say, no, you're not getting a code. Now, I know the game is gonna slap. I know it's gonna be a stunner. I mean, I haven't played it. It's gonna be as long as the original one. That's fine by me. It's fine. You get in, you get out, you're done. You play through it again. There's your experience. Do you feel that that Microsoft should take some notes from WB?
To some extent, yes. And let me lay it out this way, because when talking about Hellblade 2, there was already pushback on it being digital only. No one at IGN paid attention to the lower price. No one paid attention to the fact that the original game was digital only until like a year or so later when they did like a limited run. There have been other games like Alan Wake 2 that were digital only. And IGN didn't have a problem. The fact that every time it's something that other people do and IGN doesn't have a problem with it, but when Xbox does it, they have a problem with it. I would just take note and there goes your first. And I'd let them know, well, why are we talking about it being digital only when the original Hellblade was like that at launch? Why aren't, like, if you want to talk about digital, why aren't you talking about the lowered price in comparison? So I would, when I would give them the chance to step on their, you know what, and if they did, the code is pulled as far as early access. They don't get an IGN first if they do stuff like that. It's what Sony does to a lot of other places. You won't see any of that stuff at IGN with a PlayStation game that's actually published by PlayStation. Because I'll give you two games, for example, that had serious bugs, not just before the day one patch, but at early access. But You didn't hear boo about Spider-Man 2 having bugs from IGN. They didn't say not a blip. Even Spider-Man 1 had bugs. And they were like, oh, these are like cool because, you want to be swinging around the city as instead of Spider-Man, you want to be a light post or a mailbox. I don't know if people remember that. They tried to play it off as if those bugs are enduring type of thing. The same thing could be said when it was for Horizon Forbidden West. That game was bug riddled when it launched. They didn't say boo about it. They won't even talk bad about Sony. Like if Sony does the exact same thing that Xbox does, they'll be quiet on that. But they won't for Xbox. So I would give them the benefit of the doubt. And as soon as they step on a rake, you lost your early access. And I would let them know. And if they want to get on social media to badmouth us about it, so be it. But other places will have it. Their competition will have access unless they step on the same rake. And I think it would be an easy enough thing, just like what PlayStation has done in the past. Like we probably don't remember back in the PS3 days when it came to games like the second Resistance, where it was a little bit of a buggy mess as well. Same thing with Resistance 3, wasn't as well received. Yeah, Sony used to play, hey, you got something bad to say about the game, you don't get it until after launch. There was another title and I can't remember it now, but there have been a couple of issues where, like even Drive Club had major problems. Like it was delayed a year and it couldn't go online for a year, but you didn't see IGN say anything about it. So if I was Xbox, I would keep my ear to the social media streets when it comes to them nitpicking things that they never nitpick anywhere else. And the minute they do, hey, I saw you guys were talking about this being a digital only release. Do you remember the first Hellblade was a digital only release at launch?
It certainly was. Yeah,
So,
on PlayStation, as a matter of fact.
So why are you bringing it up now? And I'd wait for their answer and I'd be like, okay, we'll let you know when you get your review code. If it'll probably be close to launch. Don't worry. So when they're wondering why they don't get an IGN first and maybe VGC or Kotaku even, although they'll probably slip up and step on a rake anyway. But I would play it like that. And yes, I know, as mentioned before, they're a $1 trillion company, and some of these other companies are $1 billion companies, and IGN is $1 million company. It's one of those things where if you see bad acting as far as within an establishment, you have to call it out. Like I know Stein would like to say more on social media, but he has to keep it within reason to not make it look like the angry employee kind of thing against IGN. Like when they do forget that Xbox had a lot of games last year, it's like, oh, he made the post and it shows, oh, and by the way, here's another 3 or 4 on top of the 6 or 8 that I told you in the first post. So I think it's now time for them to start pulling the strings. Their competition pulls strings. I say they should pull strings and do the same thing. And if it makes it seem like favoritism in other places, well, there's favoritism by other brands out there. Other platforms show favoritism to certain sites, and then in turn, those sites are more favorable, even in the worst of news. Because you didn't see IGN really talk too badly about Destiny when they had to lay off part of the studio over at Bungie. So it's easy enough for anybody at Xbox to see. I know they're probably hesitant because these media outlets do have quite a following, and they do have the ear of the casual player. But sometimes you have to take chances, and I don't think IGN crapping on the game about it being digital only versus some of the other egregious things that happen in other games like bugs and where it's broken for months is a even playing field. So I think they can still have Hellblade 2 be a success and possibly a Game of the Year nominee minus, whoever is voting over at IGN, because they'll probably feel scorned at that point. I think it still will be able to make it to those accolades without having IGN be the first ones to show it. But that's just my take on it.
No, I mean, it's a fair point. Now, I want this to be understood. Saying that publishers, i.e., EA, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, they withholding codes, right? That again, like Gamsley, getting back to yours, it's a slippery slope, right? But I don't think a code being held from IGN, withheld from IGN, so they could quote unquote review it properly, was done to be disingenuous. That seems to be the word of the day. I don't think that. I mean, again, maybe the game is terrible. I don't personally think that's what it is. I think that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. That title that someone put, one of the people in the chat put in there, was their official, semi review. Why do I need to send you a code? You're going to dump all over it. You know what? Buy it. You're $1 million conglomerate. You can buy the code the same as way as I bought it. I spent $100. It's fine. And I've been amped for this game since it was announced. It's been through a lot of changes. And again, if the game winds up being as good as I think it's going to be, because I'm a fan of Rocksteady, and they don't really miss. It's one of those situations. Dead Island 2 is a perfect example of that. Look at that game. That game went through 6 different developers and just missed a decade in development. I think it was like 9 years. That game, by all rights, should have been horrendous. Somehow or another, they figured it out, and it was one of my favorite games of 2023, in my top 10. It was freaking phenomenal from start to finish. I'm hoping that kind of tenacity finds its way over to the Suicide Squad, which, again, obviously early access releases tomorrow. Gamsley, I'm interested to get your opinion on this, because, again, I understand there's a slippery slope, but IGN has a history of going out of their way to dump on Xbox. That's my opinion. You folks don't have to agree with me. That's fine if you don't. The truth of the matter is that it's been one subject matter after another that we keep seeing the evidence. You keep stepping on rakes, eventually you're just done. Right? You keep doing the same thing, and it's called crazy. It's called, it's called insane. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and they consistently do that. Whether it's leaving out the Xbox platform altogether on an announcement, or going out of their way to make Xbox say live on the air, well, Xbox doesn't have games. I mean, well, that's what they're saying, right? Damon said that. Like, why even say that? That's just dumb. I don't know. I understand media, folks. I work in community affairs. I understand it very well. And I understand that this generation right now that we're in, Gamsley, is focused on engagement. And engagement, like $1 million conglomerate, they need to get you to click. And sometimes it's written a certain way to get you to rage click, or whether you're a console warrior, like, oh yeah, I'm clicking on this. They said Xbox sucks. I'm going. There you go. Where do you kind of stand on seeing how there is an history detailed by Fuzzy Belvedere perfectly, is in my opinion. Maybe IGN doesn't get an IGN first with Hellblade 2. Me personally, if I'm part of marketing, I'm like, F those dudes. We're not sending a code, because we'll send it to VGC. We'll send it to Game Rant. We'll send it to somebody else that we know is going to actually play the game and give us a fair review. IGN, I'm sorry to say, I think they've gotten so big that they feel that they're owed something. They have a lot of the gaming media have become bullies. That that they're running the gambit because they're so big. I actually don't think they're as big as some people give them the credit for. I mean, they're a big company. They're $1 million company, but I think where they're getting outclassed and outshined almost on a regular basis is by us. This community is outclassing them every day. Because every day, sure, there are some podcasts, and I won't name names because we don't do that on this channel, that are just egregious on how they use hate and clickbait and console war rhetoric to sell their brand, and they get the people. That's something we don't do here. I'm very proud of that. But I think that we, as a community and a content creation community, outclass places like IGN almost on a daily basis without even thinking twice. Now, granted, not every writer at IGN is a terrible person. I'm not suggesting that at all. I just won't support them. I don't care who you are because, well, I'm not supporting the company. Where do you kind of fall, Gamsley, on Xbox potentially? Because it takes once. You know how like if you're in the kitchen and you know that you're going to cook something and you turn on the gas, you turn on the stove, and the fire's too high, and you go to cook your bacon, whatever, and you get burnt. You're like, oh shit, yeah. You're not going to put your hand by there. You're going to make sure that the fire the next time's a little bit lower. I think it takes one big AAA game like a Hellblade to be withheld from IGN. Be like, you know what, you guys are a bunch of dicks, and now you're not owed anything. We're not giving it to you. Go play it on Game Pass. And if they're gonna dump on it, they're gonna dump on it already. So it doesn't matter what you do. Me personally, I think it says a statement. Puts out a message that we are onto your shenanigans. Where do you fall into that, Gamsley?
Well, the really quick version of this is, what I say to that is, what when somebody talks so much shit about you, in real life, and you're in I'm a competitive athlete, don't do this on the street. But if somebody's talking mad crap about you in competition, what do? You go in there and you beat their ass, right?
Yeah.
You don't walk away and talk behind their back. So what I suggest they do is they give them Hellblade 2, because Hellblade 2 is going to be fantastic. You show everybody it's fantastic. And when it gets the 90s or 92s or 88s or whatever, it's really hard to deny if that thing is as good as it is when everyone around you is like, I just got my fucking teeth punched in, right? Like, it's really hard to identify. It's really hard to be like, yeah, that guy with a bloody nose didn't get his ass kicked, you know? So just identify it like that. You go, you make good games, you make great games, you give it to everybody, and you keep showing them, hey, we have good games. And the dude with the bloody nose that's against you and they got their ass kicked consistently over and over again, he can't hide. He can't be like, yeah, that guy didn't beat me up. So Xbox just got to be the bigger athlete, the bigger guy, show business the way you show business. Be good at making games, push Xbox is doing great. Keep doing great. That's the point. And you can't deny it anymore. And the people are going to easily identify at that point that IGN is nothing, which right now, like you said, the tide is turning already. So
Yep.
just keep your foot on the pedal and keep going and make this great game. I don't think you deny them a code. I just don't. Give them a
Okay, that's
code.
fair. That's fair.
Give them the code and show that they have a bloody nose. And that's how you identify them, and something undeniable. And many people have already that don't like IGN don't go there anyway, like we are, right? By the daily. I don't go to IGN anymore, period. I don't.
No,
And
nothing.
and the only time I went to IGN was to check up on Fuzzy, to check on these articles. Now, where I will say is there is an article, Alan Wake 2 will be digital, and Hellblade 2 will be digital, written by the same freelance writer. All right. And they're both fair articles. Now, I'm identifying a huge problem. You know what the problem is, guys? The
What?
huge problem is that these dude, like the workers themselves, you get the Destin, it's when they go on Twitter, right? I think I'm seeing a through line here. IGN writes an article, doesn't even have to be them, right? Doesn't have to be the same person talking on Twitter, all right? Some dude, a freelance writer, writes something for them, right? It has to go through a publisher, blah, 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 blah. That's one thing. And this is where it comes to consistency. There has to be consistency. Because if you have a writer say one thing and then all your other writers that didn't write the article go defend the article, it's a little ridiculous. Guys, individuals like you guys in IGN, just learn. Don't go on Twitter for no reason and look weak and show your weakness and your bias. Don't go there and try to defend an article. Write your article, right? That's what you're good at, not your opinions. That's what YouTube's good at. All right. Your dumb opinions and personalities, like that's not what people are showing up on IGN for. They're not showing up for your personality, Destin. They're not. You might be a good writer. Keep writing. You make bad cases all the time, and that's what's getting people shot. That's what's getting your company shot. That's what's getting everyone involved shot. Keep your mouth shut on stupidity. Just stay consistent with your website. Your website says something. You don't have to defend it if you think it's true. Let it speak for itself. And that's it. Move on. You don't have to call people out. You're not a YouTuber. You're not a celebrity. You're not a fucking... It's not your job to call people out. Stop belittling people. We all know you're a better writer than us, Destin. But what you're not is a good personality. So stick with it on your lane. Write good articles. And that's it. Same with every other IGN publisher or writer. Stop defending your stuff if you don't have a solid leg to stand on. Stop it. Write it, drop it, go along your day, and that's it. You don't need to be a personality or defend your stuff. If you truly stick by something, stick by it. Say, hey, look, drop a line or two. Say, look, I stand by my article, and that's it. You don't call out people. Don't call out your audience. Say we're stupid. Say that we make no sense. Like Dustin trying to defend the no codes thing. This is where all this rhetoric is. This is all where the fight is coming from. This defense for no reason. You stand by something, just write it, drop it, and that's it. Lead by example. Lead by example. You don't want trolls? Don't be a troll yourself. It's that fucking simple. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. Stop being fucking trolls. That's it.
No, I mean, listen, I don't think I could have put it any better. Honestly, I think you're onto something there. I think that through line you're talking about was well taken, and it's a straight line as you can get. Folks,
Sorry for the swearing, guys. That
no,
was
it happens, brother.
because I just identified it now. Like that's the whole.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Through
It's
line.
fine. We're all adults here. Listen, I have a couple super chats and I have a channel member chat that I want to kind of use as we get on out the door, because this is like normally like a 90-minute show anyway. And it comes the way of our very good friend, the Black Viking, from the Longhouse Gaming podcast. Major success over there. Love the work that they're doing. Listen to their stuff each and every week, and I couldn't be more proud. Hold on a sec, Black Viking. We're gonna actually use your particular message here as a talking point. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $10 super chat. Actually, he drops two, one of 10, one of 5. The first one, he says, "Afternoon boom. Hope you and the panel are doing well. I'm glad to see Gamsley on the panel. We need more people with disabilities in gaming. I'm disabled myself, and gaming makes me feel normal." Well, thank you very much for being here, brother. Thank you for the generosity as always. And brother, you are family, like everybody in the chat here. Disability, man, that shouldn't stop you from being a good person, a good gamer. And I'm glad that gaming does make you feel like a part of the crowd, as you should. You should not feel different because you have a disability. Absolutely not. His second very generous $5 super chat says, Eidos Montreal announced. Yeah, I saw this. I got to read the story. They are letting go of 97 employees. Someone should save them from Embracer Group, and soon more devs will be doing the same. Embracer has laid off a lot of people from different studios, even closed some studios. The only thing that I'm hoping for, and I don't know what the FTC situation, I mean, the FTC doesn't have a freaking leg to stand on. It's just a joke at this point. Lena Khan is, man, this is why she can't be in, she should not be in charge. She's not a good leader. And obviously that's proven not by the amount of cases that she's lost. It's about the way she treats people. There's been a tremendous exodus out of the FTC, especially in their senior analysts. They've all left because of her. And I would imagine when there's a new president, whoever that, or maybe even if Biden wins, they remove her because she's just lost so much, and there's the FTC's looked upon as a joke at this point. Oh man, we got Hargeet popping in here. Hargeet, what's going on? This guy's here, there, and everywhere. Hargeet, we're gonna get to your set. I want to get obviously want to get both your points because I know that you have the one about about no codes for everyone. I want to hear what you have to say there, and I also want to hear. I want to get your hot take on the should Xbox consider, maybe not doing an IGN first, maybe not sending them a code for Hellblade, even though the game is going to be again, I don't know if the game's going to be a 10 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. It looks really good. Hopefully it plays really good, but I just think that it just takes one time for them, the hand to get slapped, and then they'll think twice about being just a bunch of pricks. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Let's see. So getting back to Highlander, I really do, that Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics somehow or another make their way over to first party Xbox Game Studios. I think there's a good shot at it because both Crystal and Eidos, respectively, are working on major first party IP in Fable and Perfect Dark. So it makes sense to bring them in. I don't know the conversation. Obviously the conversation I'm sure has been spoken about between the Lars, who's a very good friend with Phil Spencer. Lars is the head of Embracer. Him and Phil are very good friends from as it's been put out there, in the media. I would love to see those two studios come over because what that instantly does is give you two studios that can make a superhero exclusive. Now, obviously, I understand Avengers didn't hit because of the way it was monetized. It was gross. Story was really good. Some of the other stuff, not so much. But Guardians of the Galaxy by Eidos was god tier,
Stellar.
phenomenal.
Really underrated.
As a matter of fact, I even got a favorite and a like from James Gunn because the story obviously wasn't written by him. But if you are a fan of James Gunn, and I am, I said that the story was James Gunn level good. And it was. If you did not play Guardians of the Galaxy, please, by all means, you could pick it up probably for like $10. It's so freaking good. It's unreal. So we have Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $5 super chat. It says Sony seems to be like the guy that said I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. Media seems not to want to make waves for Sony. I mean, they were, I'll put it to this way, there are media outlets that are afraid of Sony. They're the market leader. They rule with an iron fist. We've seen them blacklist many sites that did not that gave their honest opinion about a game. I don't think it was pointed. I think they gave a review. They didn't like a game. Sony never gave them a code again. That's just the way Sony works. That when you're the market leader, you can get away with that. And we know IGN is not going to move against, even if the game sucks, even if the game is horrendous, they'll figure out a way to word it. Oh well, it's a 7, not terrible, but that's what they will do. The Longhouse Gaming Podcast says this after being a channel member for a month. So, brother, thank you so much for the support. He says, "What's Gucci, panel and chat? I think publishers are realizing that influencers and real gamers have much better opinions than the media." I absolutely, I agree there. I think that influencers should, in fact, be brought into the fray. I think that podcasters that are community focused, not hate driven like some, should be a part of the conversation as well. That would be kind of dope. That's a good point. Sir X-Men drops not one but two super chats. The first one of $5. He says, "Remember, every other IGN gave Starfield 9s through 10s, except USA IGN. Now they can't say it's not. I guess means bias. IGN USA cannot say that it's not. There you go, not bias. I forgot that part, brother. I thank you for the generosity, Sir X-Men. And I mean, listen, take it for what it's worth. Hargeet, let's get you in here, brother, real quick. I don't know how much time you have. You have two opinions. I'd really like to get where do you kind of sit with the publisher, i.e., WB Games, holding back the code?
Yeah, I mean, Gamsley put it pretty well. It's, the headache you run into is if you decide that this outlet shouldn't get it, that outlet shouldn't get it, you suddenly run into, favoritism, right? First, I'm going to tell you this as far as like the second one. Well, we'll get into the second one, I guess, but WB doing this is because they know that some people won't like this game. It's going to be divisive. It's like it's going to have mixed reviews, right? There are going to be people who like it, and there are going to be people who really don't like it. That's just the way it is. I happen to be in the category I don't like it. I've played it twice.
Now, is it because it's not what you wanted, or it's just a bad game?
It's a bad game. Like, okay. Well, so look, you might like it if you are into that genre, right? So like this is basically a lot of grindiness to get to the actual story, right? So just think of Avengers, but like every story mission, I think this is how it started, was, hey, you have to grind for like an hour and then you can do the actual mission. Like that's kind of what the game was to me. And that's just boring. So I don't want to just grind for no reason. There was no like in Gotham Knights, you did have a little bit of that, but it was like, hey, I'm going to, go after this, this group of bad people and beat them up. But the point is, I'm going to get information from them, right? So I'm I'm actually going to interrogate this person and say, hey, I need to know about, and then they're going to give you some information. You get a little bit more information. Fair enough. None of that. It's just grind for grind's sake. That's it. And I'm like, this is just boring. And that's literally what we walked away with when we played the original, was like, after a couple of hours, we're like, yeah, we're kind of bored. Let's just stop. And so unless that was totally taken away, it wasn't. It won't really be interesting to me. So that's kind of where I land. I can see why when Destin played it, he'd come to the same conclusion. It just depends on if you like grindiness. If you do, this might be for you, right? For a lot of people, though, especially after the Arkham games, it's just not going to cut it. The other thing that I found was it felt like molasses trying to walk, trying to move. And I literally had to go install Arkham Knight again to say, am I just misremembering the fluidity of the movement? And no, I was not misremembering. It was night and day better, pun intended, when I played Arkham Knight versus playing Suicide Squad. And Suicide Squad, by the way, if you haven't noticed, it's all in the daytime. And Arkham Knight, of course, Batman does everything at night. But the gameplay, the fluidity of his movements and you running, it was just so much better in Arkham Knight. I don't know what that was and why it was like that, but that's what, how it felt. It felt like everything was like pulled down and slow. Like, I don't know why it just felt heavy instead of just floaty. Like Batman just moves. He's just like all over the way. It was so good, but that was not what you got here. And it's not about, this character isn't Batman, because they had a lot of these other characters that you could play, right, in the Arkham games with like DLC and stuff, right? So you could play those. They still felt good when you were playing the game. It was really fluid. So I don't know. To me, it didn't feel that great. But look, some people are going to like it. Good for them, right? But I think it's going to get mixed reviews. I think it's going to land in like a 6 range. That's my guess. So we'll see how it goes. But I don't like any of the code review stuff being, and it's not just IGN, by the way. It's a lot of people didn't get the codes, right? Very few did. And I think they cherry picked the ones that said good things. And I don't like that kind of mentality. By the way, they did that with Starfield too, right? They pulled it from certain ones they thought were going to give them bad reviews. Like, no, you just give it to everybody and you take your lumps. Either you made a good game or you don't. I know about the Xbox tax. I understand the Xbox tax. I've been yelling the Xbox tax for years.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I get it.
If anyone's
But-
been ringing the alarm bell, it's you. No, we give you major
Hargeet's
credit
the
for that.
poster child of that. It's
Yeah,
just, it's his
but-
face.
right, but I am not going to be about like take it from this person and give it to that person. No, if you're going to give review codes, give it evenly to everybody, same time to everybody, make it just clean. And I include influencers, but which I think are kind of taking over from the media as far as actual influence on getting games out there and people actually getting excited for them. But there's still a segment of people who will go to an IGN or a GameSpot or something like that. They'll go there. Fine, fair enough. But let them get the. So I wouldn't push for taking it away. In fact, I'd go the opposite and say, and I told this to Risk It, was like, hey, there's an open market solution to this Metacritic and OpenCritic, and they could go in and say, hey, if you've played this favoritism thing, your game won't be listed on OpenCritic or Metacritic, right? And that way you take away that behavior. Right, because you want to.
I was having that conversation with Risk It. He was trying to sell me on that. I think there was a context. I didn't agree. I didn't agree with him. He didn't agree with me. That's awesome. We don't agree, and not saying that we don't agree a lot. I actually do quite agree with him, but this time I did not agree, and maybe because it was out of context. When you say it like that, when you talk about but again, that has to be if. In order for that to work, Hargeet, with Metacritic and OpenCritic to have this power, to tell an IGN, hey, listen, your game, if you play this kind of shenanigans, your review is not going to be listed.
Well, it's not just IGN. It's
I mean, I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just specifically using IGN as that's what we're talking about.
I'm gonna say this one more time, okay? Like the writers that write for the sites, like there are some really well placed articles, like right when they're written, and the difference between that and the personalities on Twitter that talk for the company is that a lot of the time it's on a whim. It's a reaction statement. It's like they're reacting. They don't think about it. When you're working and you're writing a news article, all right, there's a lot more thought, a lot more correcting. You have time to sit there and think. But when you're on Twitter, these people they spur things out reactionary, right? That's why I hate Twitter too, is that, it really does paint a bad picture for your company, and it paints a picture
for anyone. You get weird. Instead of the full context of what's doing. It's like
exactly. Context and consistency. And that's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if these sites should be denied codes all the time and whatever. I don't know about that. But
Boom, you were making a point. What was the thought?
I actually don't know, to be honest with you. I'm reading the chat because there's a whole lot of conversation going on, so I might have lost my point. It's fine. I'm old. This is what happens.
You're not old. Stop saying that. You're amazing. Stop it.
I also wanted to bring the sauce, of course, and I don't know if anybody's talked about this.
Now bring this because so
the New York Game Awards happened last week.
Yes.
I don't know if I talked about it on Wednesday or not, but
you did not.
One game award for Nintendo, one game award for Xbox, 0 for PlayStation. There's still
oh no, get him out.
0 for Spider-Man. Sorry, though they did get the Legend Award. Neil Druckmann did win the Legend Award.
Yes,
fair enough.
He did.
However, no game awards. Spider-Man is still over.
Spicy.
So well, listen. Obviously, we're at the 90-minute mark, 95-minute mark now. This is normally a 90-minute show. Hargeet, I understand that you feel that like Gamsley was saying, and I agree to some extent. There is a bit of a slippery slope when it comes to you get it. You don't get it. But, and again, I'm not, we can talk about the whole media, but the point of today's conversation is specifically IGN.
Yep.
I want to keep it tight. IGN, as you know, I know you were listening, has on a consistent basis forgotten about Xbox being in some of their stuff, right?
Yes, they
now,
have.
Damon has said things that it's just like, why? It's not necessary to say that, Damon. You've been doing this for over a decade. There's just no reason for it. We've seen some other again that came after Jasper publicly about saying that he's wearing there's no bias here, there's no tax, as you're wearing a tinfoil hat. Fine, whatever.
Oh,
No
Mark.
names have to be mentioned. Yeah.
Mark was in here. Shout out to Mark Medina for showing up.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. He didn't have to show up here. Mark Medina, as a matter of fact, from IGN showed up, and I appreciate him popping in. There's no doubt about that. He didn't even have to say. He could have simply just, did an anonymous name, but he put himself out there, and of course, I think the chat was pretty fair. Thank you for being fair. Again, I don't agree with him, but that's fine. We can walk away like gentlemen. Do you feel that a game like Hellblade 2. Now, whether it's going to be great or whether it's going to be mediocre, we'll know in May. I think it's going to be phenomenal. It's Ninja Theory. They just don't miss, right? My second point, Hargeet, was based on the behavior of IGN the last 6, 8, 12 months. I don't think that they're owed anything. I don't think anyone is owed anything. We certainly are not owed a damn thing on this channel. That is for sure. We can get 1 million subs tomorrow, and it wouldn't matter. We're still the same mom and pop grap shop that we've always been. We're always going to be that way. Do you think that in order for IGN, especially the US IGN, to be more fair, maybe they just don't get the next big IGN first from Microsoft? Maybe they just don't get a code for Hellblade. Again, I understand that Dan Stapleton was the one that did the review, and he gave it a 7. It's fine. It's a 7. That's what he said. Okay, fine. I don't agree with that, and that's fine. Different people, different opinions. Great. I just don't trust them, and I don't. I think that even though the game could be a banger, it could be what everyone has been hoping for. Hashtag just one, right? That was made famous by Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords. Even if it's that, I personally would be reluctant to give them a code because of their past behavior. Maybe a slap on the hand kind of sets them straight, because listen, my question to you is, would they do this to Sony, Hargeet? The answer is no, they freaking would not. They would not. They are afraid. They would not.
Yeah, so look, one thing that's going to stop that from happening is you have to understand that, like, Tina Amini runs their showcase team. She may not be directly involved with who gets codes, but it's unlikely that she's going to be against her former team.
Of course.
So,
and she came from IGN, is where she
came from IGN, right? Just for those who don't know. And others, to be fair, right? She has worked across the industry, and then at last was IGN, and then moved over to Xbox. But like, I don't think they're going to take that approach. What they're going to say is, okay, if we're going to have, somebody do something with this, we want to have the broadest audience that could help the game gain traction, right? Whatever that is. It may not be IGN. It may be IGN, right? It also may be they don't do that with the US site. I'm pretty sure Ninja Theory is in the UK, correct?
Yes.
If they are, maybe they do something in Europe. Maybe they go to the UK IGN, or they pick somebody over there, right? And that might make more sense, right? To say, let's have somebody over there talk to the development team that's right there in the UK.
Right.
Hey, go make this happen, right? Or it may make more sense to go find a large influencer and say, this is how we're going to push the game, right? This is the analytics work they're going to have to do as they move forward. We saw the layoffs. A lot of that also happened to be with community managers. I think they're going to take a different tact with this to try to push how to influence the gaming world in a way that eliminates this Xbox tax, which I'm sure they've understood that there is one. But and how do you do that, right? And it's you take away that power from them and give it to somebody who's not going to have that negative attitude towards you, right? And so somehow you have to make that happen. So I think they're going to look at who's going to make it, make the best potential case. If that happens to be IGN, they'll do that. I don't think they're going to shy away from it. But it's going to be with whoever gives them the best potential for that game to gain traction. That's what should happen, right? And they're all about analytics. This is what Xbox, Microsoft does, right? It's not just Xbox. They do all sorts of analytics. So they're going to look at these things and say, well, we did this, that didn't pan out or did pan out. We did that did or didn't pan out. How does that help us? What is another game doing? Let's look at what other games are doing and see where it helped and didn't. It also depends on the genre. This is a specific genre of game. Will it help if I do that with this game, right? And how much do they want to spend on it? That's another thing that Microsoft kind of shies away from. Is it's like Sony will spend hundreds of millions marketing things. That's not what Xbox does, right? So it's very rare that they'll spend that kind of money. Now they might do that with Call of Duty. We'll see how they do with that, right? But in the case of most of these games, especially a smaller game like this, I don't know that they will spend tens of or hundreds of millions of dollars trying to market it. So they have to figure out how they're going to get the best, exposure based on whatever they do in this market, right? To say, okay, this influencer, that, website, this, media outlet, whatever it is. So would they go to IGN? 100% if it makes the game get the exposure it needs, right? So I'll just be very honest. That's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to play the favorites thing or say, hey, you did this bad thing. I think they're just going to go by numbers and try to make it happen so that the game gets as much exposure as it can, right? Even at, so look, IGN, look, all media, and why there's an Xbox tax is simply there are more PlayStation players. That's just a fact. There are more Nintendo players. That's just a fact, right? And when that happens, you're going to have more people who grow up in those ecosystems that become journalists, and they're still going to have attachment to what they remember as kids. It's just the way it is, right? That will slightly bias things. It just will. There's no way around that, right? You can be as neutral as you try to be. It's still going to show up, right? You can't say Destin doesn't have a slight Xbox bias. He does. Does that mean he can't be neutral and give fair reviews on other things? He tries, right? Somebody on the PlayStation side, might say, hey, you reviewed this PlayStation game. You shouldn't have done that because you're an Xbox dude. Okay, fair enough. But is he that bad with it? I don't know, right? So
no, I listen.
And these are
like
the
I said, I got way
really out, right?
Yeah.
So,
I like Destin. I do like
right?
Destin.
And there might be other personalities that are like, dude, I can't wait to play this. Ninja Theory is one of my favorite development studios, and I loved Hellblade 1. I'm going to, and if you get that enthusiasm match and it's at IGN, I think that they're going to go with it, right? So I wouldn't be, assuming that they'll just pull it. I think they're going to look at the logistics of what it means numerically and how well it will do for them to get the exposure they need. That's generally how it is, right? So it is what it is. I don't know that they're going to or not going to. The world is shifting, and it's interesting. Destin had a long form discussion with Alana Pierce that was posted a couple of days ago, and one of the topics was this. It's like the focus of these things is moving towards influencers and podcasters and content creators over media. And where does the media fit in that world? Because it's very easy for us to shift. We can change things pretty fast.
Yes,
they fit
it's
as
not
writers.
as easy for them.
They fit as writers, right? They fit as writers, and if they want to fit, they hire good personalities to drive their socials and to drive YouTube channels. That's what news in general should have did, right? When news were shitting on YouTubers and trying to discredit YouTubers, right? What they should have done was actually get people
embrace
in the community
the new
and
mode, right? And some have,
and put have their own YouTube personalities. But now, like these news,
but it
sites
doesn't
are trying to
always
be the
work.
personalities too. It's weird.
If you merge the two, it doesn't work, right? You have to get people that are interested in this medium, not take somebody who makes $20-30 million a year and say, hey, why don't you go on the internet with YouTube?
Exactly.
That's
you have to disconnect them. You can't.
But the some that have done that, it works, right? But either way, they were talking about how that changed. That has changed over time. Like it is really much more about influencers, much more about podcasts and content creators and streamers than it is about the traditional media. So look, Microsoft has embraced that for a while now. They do a lot of stuff with Twitch streamers, right? That's what they've been doing. Has that worked for them? I don't know. I find most of the times when they had those shows with the Twitch streamers, I'm like, can we just get to the game and can you just shut up now? Like I didn't like any of that. I was just wasting my time.
Real quick, we got some breaking news. Thanks to Real Island Gaming, the new president of Blizzard is a woman of color. I freaking love this. Now I pulled again. This is a story that we're going to talk about tomorrow, folks, because obviously we're at the end Her name is, and this comes the way of Bloomberg, who just reported Blizzard's new president, Johanna Fairs, is a former Call of Duty NFL executive. She replaces Mike Ybarra, who left the video game company last week as part of a mass layoffs under the new ownership owner Microsoft. There's a picture of it.
See?
Yep, it's written by Jason
Mhm.
You know, you
Schreier.
never know, right? With all these things, yes, it's annoying. 1,900 people left, but there was going to be some sort of cleaning house and stuff like
They-
that.
They obviously
gonna-
saw a replacement in mind.
There is, look, I don't know who's involved, who's responsible, who looked the other way. I know Bobby K, why he's not there. He let a lot of sexual misconduct and other shenanigans
And
go
I don't think Ibarra
unchecked.
is far from that mold. I
Oh,
think he was
yes.
very much in that same mold. And so it doesn't surprise me that he's not there anymore. And just to add to that one, today, was it today or yesterday? I think it was yesterday. The acquisition of iRobot from Amazon was dropped.
Was dropped. Yes.
Immediately. Was it
Yeah.
35%, 30%, something like that of the staff let go?
They were laid
Immediately.
off. Yeah.
Right? So for those who say, oh my God, acquisition, look, ABK was in free fall until Microsoft said, we're buying you.
Yep.
And they suddenly stabilized. They literally were, the reason they were able to buy this was like the stock was in free fall. It was at 95. In 1 year, it was down to 40.
Yes.
Okay. It was
correct.
in free fall.
Yes.
Okay. And they stabilized because Microsoft said, we're going to buy you. And that's how they got back to normalcy. And they went from 10,000 employees to 17,000 employees because it got stabilized. Okay. And so when Microsoft bought them, it was 10,000 employees. By the time they bought them, it was 17,000 employees. And they just looked around and said, yeah, we don't need all these. So goodbye. Right. So, yes, they suck. They really suck. Layoffs suck. I get that.
Yeah.
But this is not the end of the world. Right. They stabilize what they think is necessary to keep it going. And then if it wasn't bought, the alternatives suck much worse. That's just the way it is. Oh, and by the way, the person that joined you, it's Rocket Scientist.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
Rocket Scientist.
I actually was going to say that. That's what he said. He DM'd
Rocket
me.
Scientist,
It is Rocket Scientist, and he apologized. No, don't apologize, brother. I'm just old. I'm sorry, I don't get it. But now I do. So now Rocket Scientist has become a channel member, and now you can pronounce it. So shout out to you. So listen, real quick, folks. I know there's some chatter in the chat about whether this is a checkbox hire. Folks, let me tell you something. Please don't go down that route. I don't think that is what is happening at Blizzard. Blizzard was male dominated, and it had a lot of problems that is still unsettled. They had a Bill Cosby room. Think about that for a second. On the premise. I mean, are we freaking kidding me? Like, honestly, that
it was bad, guys.
That is. That guy was convicted of rape.
This up with even worse. Like they hired a lady that was running one of their games, right, to become president. They couldn't just leave it at that. They said, no, Mike Ybarra has to be co-president, and Mike Ybarra makes much more money than she does.
Yeah, it's. They needed some big change over there. I love this hire. I think this is phenomenal. I think I don't, please, with the check boxes. She's qualified. Let's just
oh my goodness,
she's just qualified, and there's nothing wrong with her being African American. No, not a problem with her being a woman. That shouldn't be anything. Can she do the job? Well, apparently so. So she's hired. She has taken over for Mike Ybarra, who left. Now, whether we'll hear some stuff down the road, whether he was asked to leave or he left on his own accord. We someone's gonna write a book and we're gonna find out about it. But listen,
about
folks,
the Bill Cosby room.
Yeah, the fucking Bill Cosby. I mean, that's just.
I can't believe that actually happened.
You gotta understand that when I hear stuff like that, I'm appalled because I'm former law enforcement, and when I hear that, I'm like, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it, but it was the thing. Look, ladies and gentlemen, what a great show. We had almost 700 people here, which is amazing. A big shout out to all of the super chats. I'm gonna make sure that I'm up to date on every of them because I feel really upset when I miss them. Yes, we are up to date. A big thank you to Hargeet jumping in the last minute, so we'll get you out of here quickly. Of course, thank you to Gansley for joining us. This is now back-to-back weeks. Great opinions, great forethought. Love the way that you broke it down. And of course, Fuzzy, thank you for always being a part of the show, as well as Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings. Hargeet, let's get you out of here. Let's sell the brand of Game On Daily with Asa and Gaz. Of course, Mr. Septic Sauce himself. He has been, of course, very busy on social media, going back and forth. And yeah, listen, this is what we love Gaz. He's fun. He's entertaining. Someone insulted him racially that he kind of put on blast, which was disgusting. And I'm glad that he did. And of course, the said person was cowardice and had him blocked, so he couldn't see it, but somehow he found out because, well, someone probably sent it to him. I'm glad that he handled it the way he did, because Gaz is a good dude. And he's not a terrorist like this asshole of a person said that he was.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was just I read it. It's just disgusting.
Wow.
Absolutely disgusting. But I'm glad he handled it the way he did. And of course, he was saucy, as we know and love the Septic Sauce. Sell the brand of Game On Daily, brother. Tell people where they can check that out each and every week. They do a great show. They're growing in ways that I'm sure they didn't expect to grow, but they deserve it because they work super hard on it. And where can people not find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Discord and Xbox, HChani. Yeah, and GameOnDaily.com, YouTube.com/GameOnDaily. Asa is also starting up a new thing. So that's on Thursdays.
Nice.
On Game On Asa is his channel.
Nice.
Check that
dude.
out. That's
Yes.
I think it's like
You're
the
stealing my
evening
line,
timeframe.
Hargeet.
But yeah, and you're in it, are you not?
I'm
think
in
you're
it. I'm
Kim.
very
You're
much
in it,
in
right?
it,
Yeah. But yeah, and there's somebody else that I can't remember, but you can talk about that one. But so check that out. And then also, of course, I'm on Games Talk Live with Fonz and as co-host. We had Colt on yesterday. It was fun. I think I had this reversed because of his thing, but undo that. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, check that out. That's on Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Fawn's Gaming's channel. Am I still on? No, there we go. No,
yeah, you're here.
Away. And then then we'll be talking again on Wednesday here at Primetime Gaming, right on Boom's channel, 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. And well, we'll see what this week brings. The last few weeks have been pretty crazy. This whole year has been pretty crazy so far. So
yeah, it's unfortunately it's been led with by layoffs, man. I just
and there's more. It just keeps happening.
Yeah,
more layoffs.
I think they're upwards of 6,000 plus people, and we're not even out of January.
And Embracer and Riot Games, which is Tencent for those who don't know. Tencent is laying off people. Oh, I guess the government of China didn't stop that from happening. I guess those communists don't make any difference. Oh well.
Well, listen, Hargeet, brother, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you as always. Gamsley, let's sell your brand, kind sir. And you also have a message. Obviously, you're going to be working with Asa. Who is your co-host along with Asa on Thursdays? Tell us about that, man.
All right. Well, Deadly Headley is one of our panel members along with Asa, so it's going to be amazing. I'm not going to reveal the name yet of the actual podcast because we didn't really put that to the public yet, but check at Game on Asa's channel. We're going to go Thursday is our set time that we're thinking of doing the first episode. So this Thursday, upcoming Thursday, 8 p.m. GMT, 9 p.m. CET, 3 p.m. EST, the only time frame that matters. 12 p.m. PST. So check the channel. Check my handles for any information. It's going to be at Gamsley TKD on Twitter, Deadly Headley on Twitter as well, and Game On Asa on Twitter as well. Check those profiles out and our feeds. We'll keep you posted. And also, if you want sports stuff, it's Anthony_Capello 450 on Instagram. Nobody cares about Instagram. Just go do the other stuff. Thank you. I love you guys.
At least
and
you
remember,
have the links available on X, so you can definitely get people to check you out there.
So I'll send you all that stuff. And just remember, guys, different opinions are good for everything. So thank you for listening.
No, thank you. Well, thank you, Anthony. Super appreciate you being here, brother. And obviously having you a part of the show is a big deal. And we're happy for the opinion. Not everyone has to agree, but we can all still be friends. And I love that about the way we do business here.
No, I
Last and no way
refused.
least, Fuzzy Belvedere, sell the brand. You've been busy, man. You were here, there, and everywhere like Hargeet. I mean, obviously, lots to talk about. Obviously, this is just the start of the week, and we're already, rolling in it. Sell your brand. We're trying to get you to 500 subscribers on your YouTube channel, where, of course, if you don't know, is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. Sell it, brother. Tell people where can they can subscribe, help you get to that 500 subscribers, and more importantly, follow you on social media.
Well, just want to thank you for having me on. Always awesome being on here with you, Boom. And it was awesome having our special guests, Hargeet and Gamsley, as well. You guys rock. Love your feedback and opinions. Even though we differ on them, that's all good. You take it from a perspective that makes us think or reevaluate some of the things. But it's always great having a conversation with you guys. Love what you guys do. And if you haven't already, everybody in the chat, definitely make sure you follow them or support the other podcasts that they're on as well. And don't forget to hit the like button while you're here, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on the Fun Speculation podcast later on tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fun Speculation's channel. And then look forward to hopefully seeing you guys back here in chat on Monday or on Friday morning for Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you guys there.
Thank you so much. And again, once again, folks, thank you for coming, checking out the show. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button on the way out. And if you're feeling extra generous, share this on social media. Of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats. They allow us to do the big giveaways, and we have 4 monster giveaways starting in September, where we're giving away 15 copies of Stalker 2 to kind of quote unquote help the developer, support the dev kind of thing. Well, we're doing it in our way. Obviously, we're gonna buy them at full price, and all you gotta do is be in the chat to win. It's super easy. We give you the code, you play it. If you're outside, Hargeet's going to show me where I can get worldwide code, so at least I can get a code, and it could be, wherever you are, you can get the code, which would be great. And of course, a big thank you once again for the channel memberships. Those are huge, and again, they help us, get the equipment that we need to keep the show running, as well as the big giveaways. And of course, I'm going to close out today's show as I do every show. And that's going to tell you something that I was raised. And again, it made me a better police officer. I think it made me a better human being, through and through. My pop used to say this: treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.